On today's episode of the Cryptoverse, Bitcoin price alert. Italy may be about to begin bank bail-ins. TunnelBear is the simple VPN app that makes it easy to browse the web privately and enjoy a more open and secure internet experience. Try TunnelBear for free by checking out the link in the video description below. Hi there guys, and welcome to the latest episode of the Cryptoverse, your regular dose of news and commentary on Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, and blockchains. I am your host, Chris Coney, so let's get into today's news. Of all the lovely news stories out there today, I have chosen to turn to the Cointelegraph again for this article by Evander Smart entitled Bitcoin Bull Run Alert. Italy to begin banking bail-in. This is a good one. See, I've highlighted most of this first part of the article because there's so much to say about it. It begins by saying Bitcoin has proven a few things true over its relatively short existence in human history. 1. It has proven that it is not going anywhere, regardless of how many times the mainstream media pushes it into the cornfields. Now, my comment on that is that these death of Bitcoin headlines have become so much of a joke that I actually have two websites in my bookmarks that list over 100 times when Bitcoin has been pronounced dead. And I'll put the links to those two sites on the Cryptoversity blog and in the description of the YouTube video so you can check them out for yourself. And it goes back years, right? Chronicling all the way up to December of this year. Not December, November of 2016. So that was number 1. Number 2 is the inherent value of Bitcoin's currency and the underlying technology are so strong and undeniable that the world's largest nations, banks, and corporations are building their future business models around it. So how do we know this is true? Well, you only have to scan the headlines of CoinDesk, for example, and you'll see one country after another announcing some kind of blockchain-powered digital currency experiment. Not only that, there are these consortiums like R3 and Hyperledger that are made up of all of these traditional financial institutions who are trying to work out what to do with the blockchain revolution. And then thirdly, Bitcoin is the world's newest financial safe haven, as market turmoil means great gains can be made in the world of digital currencies like Bitcoin. And the most beautiful thing is that the number of places that Bitcoin is accepted as payment is increasing by the day. This is my take on it. That means that if you make big gains on your Bitcoin, you won't necessarily have to exchange your Bitcoin for fiat currency in order to spend it. So the Bitcoins that you buy today may be all you need to, say, buy a house or a car in the future. And that's why I don't sniff at an opportunity to make small amounts of Bitcoin consistently. And I'm not looking at the pennies that the Bitcoin is worth today. I'm looking at the amount of Bitcoin I'm getting. So I'm looking at what that piece of Bitcoin will buy me in the future. So moving on here, the green bit says that reports out of Italy indicate another European Union member nation is beginning to implode, and a banking bail-in or a debt conversion are starting in earnest. Is another Bitcoin bull run in the offing? And as you'll know, if you've taken my Digital Money Revolution course, all paper currencies throughout history have eventually collapsed. And when I say collapsed, they've all eventually become worthless. The value of all fiat paper currencies throughout history have eroded their purchasing power until they went to zero or near zero. And you've seen that hyperinflating currencies like in Zimbabwe and so on, where you need like stacks and stacks of paper currency to even buy a chocolate bar. So that's what happens to fiat currencies. It's built into the very model itself. And if you watch my interview with Josh Shigala from a few weeks ago, he quotes that the average currency has a lifespan of about 46 years, which is incredible. Although that's fiat currencies. So with regards to these bail-ins then, while it looks like Italy's next, every other paper currency is patiently waiting in line for their turn. The next heading here says, haven't we met before? According to ZeroHedge, Reuters and Bloomberg, Italy's banking system is beginning to implode, starting with Monte dei Paschi, Italy's third largest bank. The details of how they will execute the bail-in are not of terrible importance. What is important is how the Italian market will react, specifically over the next few weeks, as the bank may fail to recapitalize. And again, if you've completed the Digital Money Revolution course, you'll understand why this is going to be such a huge problem for the bank's customers. The reason the bank is legally allowed to do the bail-in in the first place is because the money in the bank belongs to them by law. By the same token, if the bank fails, its customers just become one long line of people that it owes money to. And the banking customers, the regular banking customers, they have to wait behind all of the companies that the bank owes money to. So then moving on to this purple bit, it says, if this ends in the same way as Cyprus and Greece have experienced most recently, an expected upward volatility in Bitcoin may last throughout the rest of the year. Now we keep using this term bail-in. So for anyone that doesn't know what that is, it's the alternative to a bailout. In a bailout, the government of that country typically injects money into the bank by buying shares in it. So the government money goes in to give the bank extra cash, and the government then owns shares in the bank. This happened in the UK to Lloyds Bank and Royal Bank of Scotland in the 2008 financial crisis. So the government becomes an investor in the bank, basically. And since the government gets its money from the taxpayers, they use tax money to do that. So this is basically okay, because not only does it save the bank's customers from losing all their money if the bank collapsed, it's also an opportunity for the government to make a return on that investment, meaning the government might end up with more money without having to raise taxes, because they'll get a return on that investment, and that's ideal, right? Now, I think bailouts have become less popular over time because governments basically either just don't have the money, or they realize that investing their money in a failing banking system is just a bad idea. The alternative then is a bail-in. In Cyprus, for example, the Bank of Cyprus looked through its customer database and it looked for anyone with more than 100,000 euros in uninsured funds, and then it took 47% of it and gave it to the bank. The justification there is that if they didn't do that, the bank would have collapsed and depositors would have lost all of their money. So imagine that. You have 110,000 euros in the bank, and then you wake up the next day and it's gone down to 51,700 because of this 47% haircut. That would hurt. And what was the result of this? The grey bit I've highlighted here says, over the course of 90 days, Bitcoin's value grew tenfold as an economic panic set in, bringing Bitcoin national press from CNN and others as the newest of the virtual safety nets. And if we take a look at the historical Bitcoin price chart, these bail-ins most likely contributed to this big run that began in 2013 or in October. So if I flick over to the Bitcoin chart here, I'm looking at the Bitcoin weekly chart. And on the right hand side here is the most recent price from today, or this week rather. And if I go right back to the left hand side of the chart, there's this massive meteoric rise that begins, beginning of October of 2013. And it begins around with the Bitcoin being worth $127-ish. And then over the course of like several weeks, it rockets to the highest I think Bitcoin ever was, which is $1,163. And then granted, there was a lot of volatility after that, but that meteoric rise was fear, right? Fear from the old banking system. And the reason why we call Bitcoin and gold, say, a safe haven is because it exists outside of the banking system. You could actually argue that gold is within the banking system because it still has financial instruments around it and all that kind of stuff. Unless you physically own your own gold in a safe in your own house, that would be outside the banking system. But if it's in a vault, then there's still an intermediary. And that's the beautiful thing about cryptocurrencies, is that we own the sovereignty. We actually own and store the value itself. So this article ends by saying, can a bull run be guaranteed? No, but we've seen this movie before and we know how it ends. So thanks for joining me today, guys. If you liked this episode, hit the like button. If you disliked it, hit the dislike button. Leave me a comment below with some feedback and get subscribed. And please support the Cryptoverse and boost cryptocurrency adoption by becoming a Cryptoversity patron. From as little as $10 a month, you can secure Cryptoversity's future, get unlimited access to all Cryptoversity courses, and access a private patrons-only chat group where you get direct access to me. That's all for today, guys. I will be back tomorrow with another episode of the Cryptoverse. So until then, it's me, Chris Coney, saying bye for now.